Take one. Action.
That's
Taylor in the
morning. That's Taylor in the
morning.
This is my favorite mug. Hashtag Jimmy Fallon. I will tag him in this and maybe he'll put me on his show. He's my favorite person. And then Justin Timberlake holding Jimmy Fallon. Shout out to all my Jimmy Fallon lovers.
And mine says, I just want to drink wine and pet my cat. I don't drink wine because I go to Bible college, but I do pet my cat frequently when I'm home, which I don't have a cat in my dorm room either, so I'm not breaking any rules, I promise. It's just for the mug's sake.
Today we are going to be answering a question.
Several questions, maybe.
We'll see what time. Shout out to Justin Jang. Justin Jang. We are going to be answering your question today. So hi, Dustin.
Hi, Dustin. I'm Becca. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm not Becca. Dustin
yes.
is one of my friends at home.
Yes. Hello, Dustin.
Dustin asked, would you tell us a story about a time when you felt most alone, parentheses, most single or excluded or rejected,
Have to have the whole context, you know.
And in that heartache, were there any valuable lessons from that time? And what do you know about yourself now that you did not know when you were unhappy about your singleness and broken relationship? Would you like to start with us?
Very deep questions. So a story about a time when you felt most alone. Well, there were several times through my breakups that I felt really alone because I think I had been with these guys, the guy I was engaged to, and then the guy in high school that I dated for 3.5 years. I had been with these guys for so long, so I always had that person with me. And then all of a sudden, there was like no one there to like constantly talk to, text. And I think after those relationships ended, I had to feel alone in order to heal. Because I think that feeling is where the Lord really meets you. Almost, because when I felt most alone, that's when the Lord would speak to me. But I think one of the hardest things that happened after my fiance and I broke up was a lot of people, because I go to a Bible college and it's just like love season constantly here.
Very little people.
Yeah, with very little people. It's a very small college, so everybody's dating and stuff. So after I just broke off my wedding, which, mind you, I already had my venue, I already had my dress, I already had everything planned for this wedding. After that happened, like, tons of my friends were getting engaged. A girl in my quad got engaged. There were, like, just several people that got engaged after. And I felt like it was just so opportune. Like, right after I broke off my engagement, people were getting engaged. So I think that's the time where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so alone. All these people are finding someone, and all these people are getting engaged. And now my engagement is failed. And so I think in those times I didn't have someone to constantly talk to, and now I was the one with the failed engagement rather than finding someone like everybody else was. So I think that's the times where I felt most alone. And I really had to adjust with not having a boyfriend, because I think I got so comfortable with being with someone that I didn't even know how to act when I was alone. Like, I didn't even know what to do being single. And so I think I had to adjust to that. But that's when the Lord really met me and was just like, you need to be with me first. You need to be comfortable with just being me and you and not being with someone constantly. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the times where I felt most alone.
And what did you learn about
yourself? What did I learn? Okay, yes, this is good. I think I needed time. I think that's what I learned from that. Like, I didn't know now, but I knew then. Or no, what I didn't know then, but I know now. When after my boyfriend and I broke up in high school, my mom, every single day I woke up, she'd be like, Becca, it's another day closer to healing. It's another day closer to healing. And I think one thing that I learned was that I need time. It's not going to be one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm fine with being alone. I'm fine with being single. I think you need to allow yourself time to heal and to really almost embrace that aloneness, that singleness. Embrace that when you're alone, that doesn't mean that you have to be lonely. So I think that's something that I learned from that. What about you, Tay?
I think as I was thinking about this question and praying a lot about it, it didn't, not a specific moment in my life did God reveal, but a lot of feelings throughout my life. Because being single and seeing people go in and out of relationships, I felt lonely through all of that because I was thinking that I was going to find someone and that person was going to heal that loneliness. So to take you a little bit on a journey with that is I don't even know where it started, where I decided to be single. I think it was just within my time in high school where I decided I was like, no, I don't really want to date anybody. I don't really want to make any of those decisions. And so it was really great. I felt totally fine with being single and being alone until I got to senior year when I felt like I was ready for a relationship. You know, when you feel like sometimes you're like, oh, I'm secure in myself, I'm confident in myself, I'm ready to be in a relationship. And where I started pursuing a relationship, but that relationship really didn't take me anywhere. It was just kind of like a lack of communication there. And I think that's when I realized that loneliness that I was feeling, or that brokenness, was not going to be fulfilled by a person. Because even when I was trying to achieve that, and even when I was trying to really seek that out, that loneliness was still there. And after that, I was like, well, okay, so when I get to college, that's when I'll decide to start dating. And then I decided to stay home for college for 2 years. And so I was like, okay, fine. I have 2 years. I'm totally good. I'm going to have all these friends. I don't need anybody to start dating. There's nobody around me that I want to date. And throughout that time, I realized my friends were dating. My friends were talking about getting married. And I was so alone in that. And I wanted to share my life with someone, but I felt kind of broken within that. And then when I went to college, I was like, okay, so this is Life Pacific College. Everyone gets married here. Ring by spring.
Happened to me.
Go to Life to find your wife, for the men. And
or women.
And so the first week, all these people were dating, or at least like people were interested in them, and I didn't get any of that. There was nobody that like said, oh, I'm interested in you, let's talk, or let's hang out. And there were so many other people around me that were feeling that. And I think that was when I realized that I felt really alone and broken within that. And I didn't feel loved, and I didn't feel like any guy would want to date me. And so throughout the time, as I saw people dating and people really getting engaged and all the things that happen around you, it's really all, I'm just surrounded by a lot of love, but also a lot of brokenness. And coming to a realization that it's not that I don't feel loved, or it's not that somebody wants to pursue me. It's that I needed to find my security in the Lord, and not in somebody that was going to come along and heal my loneliness or my brokenness. Because what I learned from that was that it wasn't going to be this communication. It wasn't going to be this relationship that healed the loneliness or that brokenness that I felt. It was going to be me actually being intentional about all my relationships and my relationship with God that really would make me feel secure in the fact that I'm alone. But I never felt alone. After I really realized that, I felt more secure that I was happy to be where I was. And I think through all of that, I realized what I know about myself now that I didn't know then was that I don't have to be in a relationship to be happy, or I don't have to find love in order to help out other people who are in a relationship and they're having a hard time. It was more of God's gonna show me the wisdom to talk to someone who's broken from a relationship, and he's gonna reveal what I can say to them in order to help them through a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And God was protecting me from a lot of hurt by staying single, and I don't know how I would react if somebody were to ask me on a date. Like, I just don't know, and that's me being vulnerable, because that's just such a foreign thing to me. Mm-hmm. But I think that's where I want to be at it right now.
Mm-hmm. The bottom line I've noticed, like, between both of our stories here is that no person is going to make you feel unlonely. Like, that's not going to fill the hole in your heart if you're feeling lonely. That is not. Yeah. Even in marriage, people can still be lonely. Even if you're surrounded by, like, tons of people, you can still be lonely. No person, no thing can make you feel better about your loneliness. Honestly, it's finding your security and identity in the Lord. And I know we talk about that a lot, but that's really the only, like, cure to loneliness is finding your identity in God and being totally okay for the rest of your life, just you and him. I think that's where that's where you will feel like you're not alone. Your loneliness will not be there when you know that it's just you and the Lord, and you rely on him to bring that, because he's the only one that can ultimately fulfill that.
Mm-hmm. And I think another thing with that is just kind of defining identity in God, because we say that a lot, and some people just don't even understand what that looks like. And I think that's to define it a little bit more is to see that who you are is not about who other people think you are, or what you do, or how you think you are viewed in the world. It's more about that God sees us as children of him, and we're beautiful and we're wonderful and we're created in his image, and God is a perfect God who is divine, and he sees us as his little precious children that he created. I don't know if that
no, that makes sense,
helps out a lot, but I think that too is just another reminder of when you're feeling broken or when you're feeling lonely, that you are precious, and no matter what, it's good to feel precious and feel loved, because that's what God can do for us, even in the midst of our brokenness or singleness or anything that you might be struggling through.
And just looking at our world today, people are honestly looking for love. They're looking in every area. They're looking for love. They're looking to be valued. And that's why a lot of people turn to sex, alcohol, drugs. That's why people turn to that, is because there is this whole, like, oh my gosh, am I lonely? This loneliness is something that I think we all feel, but the way we feel it is what's going to fulfill us or not, and those things will not obviously fulfill you. And so I think everyone is dealing with this lonely feeling, but it's what we decide to do with that and how we decide to look at that that I think is going to bring a difference. Because no matter if you've been single your whole life or you've been in a lot of relationships and broken, there's always that theme of loneliness.
It's not a blessing versus a curse to be single and to be in a relationship. Both are looked at as blessings and curses, because I think that there's a lot that has to be put into a relationship, but there's also just a lot you get out of a relationship. And so that was another thing that I realized throughout the process of being single.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. We will be answering next week. We will be tackling a big question about choosing celibacy and singleness, and kind of just talking more about what it's like to be single, I guess. And from both our perspectives, which will be fun. And
I just want to thank everybody. We've gotten a lot of good reviews, so thank you for your questions. Keep on submitting questions. We love those. That's like what we base what we're going to talk about what you guys want to hear. So just keep submitting questions, and thank you so much for your positive reviews, and stay tuned. Gotta show you Jimmy Fallon again, and the cat. You know, they're both important.
I also want to say if there's any feedback for that one question to talk through with us, that would be great. Just so we can see where we're at. And if you guys want more, like, practical things to like, get over heartbreak or get over being single, you can't really get over being single. It's just being
practical advice.
Being content with being single and being content with
being brokenhearted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be content with that.
with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, let us know.
Yeah. But cheers.